Hello and welcome to the HBC Sharing God's Love podcast, part of FaithFood.Tv. I'm one of your hosts, Stuart, and joined by our other host, Joel.
Hello.
Today we are joined by Clay as well.
Hello.
And as always, we are joined by Jason.
Hi.
Behind the camera.
Hi, and I'd like to say who Clay is. Clay is our son, Joel's and Jason's son. Is that right, son? You're going to claim that?
Yes, I'll claim it.
Cool. Awesome. So great to have you on today, Clay.
Thank you.
And we've got today's episode. We're going to be we're going to be talking around a film called Jesus Revolution. This was played recently at Hawkwell Baptist Church. We had a Sunday showing, really interesting film. We're going to today talk around what we found of the film, kind of messages maybe within the film itself as well, and give a little bit of a review too.
Yeah, and I'd like to commend Beryl because she was the one who actually organised it and put it on. And there's a great possibility that there's definitely going to be another one, I'm assuming. When that's going to be, I don't know. It would be great if it was a regular monthly thing or fortnightly thing. But do keep posted on the Hawkwell Baptist Church website for details on that.
No, it's a really good addition. Thank you, Jason. Because Beryl did a lot of organising, and as well as other people in the church to get it set up. And I know there are some really big fans of the film as well. So Alan, who comes down to our church as well, loves this film too. So it was really nice for everyone to see it. Cool. To get us started, though, guys, I thought we could go through a little bit of the plot line for anyone that hasn't seen it. So I've got some kind of key points here around what the film covered. And then maybe I thought that from there we could just kind of give our own thoughts as to what we thought of it, and then see where the conversation takes us.
Yeah, that's right.
Great.
Yeah. So Jesus Revolution was filmed in 2023, and it's a true story around a movement in the late 1960s in California. It centres around three characters. So you've got, to kind of use their real names in real life, you've got Lonnie Frisbee. It's an interesting name, but he is a figure who was one of the hippie in the film. You've got Chuck Smith, who is an older character, who's an original pastor of a church where this film is centred around. And you've got a younger star called Greg Laurie, who's still around today and is a central part of the film as well. Back in 1968, Chuck Smith, he was a pastor of Calvary Chapel. And his daughter actually met someone called Lonnie, who appeared almost looking like a kind of stereotypical Jesus figure in the film, wasn't he? Long hair, and he was a hippie, and he was travelling with a stick, and Chuck's daughter picked him up, and actually Lonnie and Chuck met in his house. There's a little bit of a clash because Chuck was quite traditional. Maybe a little bit uptight, if that's fair to say, in his ways. And you've got Lonnie, who was very, free-loving, hippie.
Very hippie.
Yeah. So there's a pivotal point in the movie, and really what it describes is that Chuck and his congregation seemed or were portrayed to be a little bit fixed, maybe, in their ways. And Lonnie brought, and we'll talk about this shortly, but brought something different. And there was a scene in the film where Lonnie and his, I think it was One Love, or they had a band basically, and you could see the pastor kind of warm into that and really kind of sensing something different was happening. At this time, you've also got a character called Greg, who he mentioned. He actually was kind of on a slightly different path, but going out of a kind of officer training corps, he ended up slipping into a group and getting involved with drugs, and having a little bit of a kind of spiral downwards. He had some family issues and found himself in a bit of a dark place. He met Lonnie and then started attending the church, got baptised, and joined essentially a larger movement. And at this time, more and more people were starting to attend Calvary Chapel, essentially, so which was Chuck's ministry.
I'm not sure if you're going to mention this, but I haven't got the right name, but the pastor.
Yeah, Chuck.
He was like critical of the hippies, very critical of them, and his daughter, she basically was going to bring that bit up where his daughter. He mentioned his daughter bring one of them a hair or something.
Yes,
Was she gonna bring
absolutely. Yes. No, I've kind of skipped past it, but you're completely right.
Yeah.
So Chuck's daughter, when she met Lonnie,
That's right,
prior to that, actually said, bring one of them home. So actually, that's what happened. So
so
no,
that's where the
thank
comedy
you.
is in the film.
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I'll kind of skip through a little bit, but in short, what resulted was a huge movement, and more people were attending this church. There's a little bit of a clash between the old congregation and the new, which we can talk about. But what ended up happening was thousands and thousands of people come in. The church grew and grew. They needed to go outside and get a huge tent because there just wasn't enough space in the church they had. And at this time, the Lonnie character, who brought a lot of the kind of newer, younger hippies to that church, then started to become slightly prideful. A few things happened, and he actually fell away from the church, but the movement continued. Yeah, I think that's, and there are a couple of bits after then. I don't want to go into every single detail for people that.
Because we want people who haven't seen it to actually watch it.
Yeah. But overall, it's a story around a movement and almost like a revival in California.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, guys, what did you think of the film?
Yeah, I would not have called it a revival, but definitely a movement. I saw the movie was great.
It's a revolution, wasn't it?
Yeah, I would have called it a revolution, because what I got from the movie is the church who was so conservative but so judgmental, like just talking about hippies, I feel like they were sinning. It seems like they were very against that, very against a lot of things.
Like hippie phobia.
Yeah, and they came across quite. It reminded me of when I was in France. The church is quite, don't do this, don't do that. It's not about love. It's not about God changing you. It's about you following a set of rules. And when the Chuck guy opened his door to this guy, he actually opened the door to bring love into his church. And I thought that was quite beautiful, and that was needed, because that's what those church needed. And whatever the Lord choose to use, whether this lonely guy, whoever it was, he chose him to bring back the love the church needed, and the compassion and the acceptance, and I thought that was beautiful.
He did take a risk, though. There's no doubt he's taken a risk. Throughout the film, you could see when he brought him in the house, it's almost like he was watching what's happening, trying to check his feelings and what was happening.
Yeah.
Is this right? Is this wrong? Do you know what I mean? So I think it was good, because he was. I suppose he was monitoring it, engaging it.
Yeah.
At the same time, learning from it.
Yeah, it takes bravery to do that as
Yeah.
well. So if we just step back, before we kind of go into the specifics, maybe for all of us, if you give a 1,000-foot view, overall, then you said you really liked the film. You thought.
I think people need to watch it.
Yeah.
I think he is a good. I think he's a good movie to show how we can all get things wrong.
Yeah.
Whether the people inside the church as well the people outside the church, is that we all get it wrong. We're all not getting anything's right. We need God. We need the Word of God. And I thought that was quite beautiful, the way God revived the church, because they needed the love. They needed.
Yeah.
And I thought that was quite beautiful.
Awesome.
I think people should watch it because of it really shows the history of Christianity as we know today.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't know how much of the hippie culture influenced Christianity until I watched the movie. And there's few things when I watched it, I realized, oh, no, that's why we do that in church. Oh, the worship songs we sing, and the way we're like all loving and lovey-dovey, it comes from that initial hippie culture, which through change and Jesus brought good things and some not terrible, but yeah.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. That I noticed that as well around the music and how that changed the church as well. So awesome.
You mean kind of like it brought kind of like more modern music in, or the type of hippie music in?
Well, yeah, the type of hippie music. I mean, what I mean by that is the type of the spirituality around it, a spirituality around music. How hippies viewed music was more of an outlet, and how we view music as Christians is also an outlet for receiving the Holy Spirit. Well, inlet. I'm not sure if it's outlet.
But
yeah, I suppose a bit of a Hillsong. For us, it would be Hillsong. We would recognise that through like Hillsong music or Bethel, how they're using, I suppose, secular music's sort of like their music goes into the charts and goes to number one as much as the secular. So it's blending in with culture, I suppose.
Yeah, music speaks your way that words can't as well.
Yeah.
So yeah,
and the emotion to it that the music bring. Because we led by the Spirit, not our emotion, but music can take you into your emotion, which is that.
Yeah, that's kind of.
which is not really what.
Well, the hippies they took drugs and they used that as well to go into their emotions. And as you saw when Greg went into the church for the first time, and he ran away because he was like, I don't want this high to end like the other high, and he thought he was getting high almost because if it was a different type of high, it was more of a emotional.
Yeah, that's good. That's a very good point.
Yeah,
because that's a very good point, because that was very moving and touching in the film. And one thing I would recommend the film for, definitely a must see, because it told the story well. And there was elements where I even looked over at Stuart, because I watched it with Stuart, where he looked like he was about to cry. No, I'm teasing. No, but I have to be honest.
There were a couple of moments.
There was a couple of moments.
Yeah, I was like, Jason's next to me, I can't cry.
Yeah, I'm putting it in because I know exactly where those moments were.
Yeah.
Because it made me well up a bit. Definitely the bit where he was getting baptised.
Yeah.
I don't know what they did around that scene, but it was very moving.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I think the film was well told, and when a film can create that in you, then you've connected. So definitely worth a watch.
I agree. For me, I completely agree. I really loved it. I think it was quite an accessible film because I think that it didn't require, if you weren't a Christian, it doesn't require a huge amount of knowledge, if that makes sense, because it's telling a story.
Yeah.
And it shows a change in people as well.
Yeah.
There were things missing, definitely, like we spoke around earlier, but I think as well that, just like you described, Jason, that as a Christian watching it, you see the significance behind some of those things, like the significance of baptism as an example. I overall would 100% recommend it.
And you're right as well when you say it gives you a looking through the door of Christianity, I suppose. Yeah. The actual life of conversion or just what people are looking for. Yeah. Should I mention? No, I'll let you talk first. There's a bit in the film I mentioned. I don't want to jump ahead, so I'll wait patiently.
So, I think we've looked through us giving our kind of 1,000-foot view of what we thought of the film. A couple of things did stick out. So you mentioned around love, I think, Joel. Mm-hmm. Music was one. Any thoughts? Where should we start in terms of the? Maybe should we look at love and the kind of maybe the beginning parts of the film where we've got Chuck, the pastor, who's possibly, I don't want to be unfair to him, but maybe a little bit uptight in terms of and rigid. Yeah. And then the change at the.
What I like about that pastor, for me, is one pastor that sounded very genuine, because I could see he looked in his daughter's eyes, and I could see he wasn't making it. I mean, his daughter was walking away from Christianity, and it's almost in his eyes, as a pastor, as a dad, he did something wrong for her to look somewhere else, but not in his church. And you know the discussion you point out, when the dad actually see, if God bring me a hippie, then I will listen. And funny enough, God did bring him an hippie, an imperfect one. We don't know if he was truly saved or not, but that's not us to judge. But this guy was definitely used to revive and to bring love. One scene I really loved is when they were, the people of the church were like, they're dirtying the carpet because they're walking barefoot. And the next church meeting, the pastor was washing everyone's feet.
Yeah.
That for me was like, wow. Yeah. This guy who was highly conservative, disliked hippie, ended up washing their feet. That speaks volume.
Yeah.
regardless of what that movement bring or didn't bring or whatever, that action was,
Yeah.
I mean,
And
everyone's feet it was.
It was a response as well, wasn't it? Correct me if I'm wrong, but is it a response as well to some of the aggravation that one of the other church members was giving? So
Yeah.
he's like taking something, instead of pushing back, he was just
Finding a solution.
Yeah, and it was
you
showing
don't-
love.
Yeah, yeah, you don't want them to wear barefoot in their dirty feet,
Yeah.
to dirty your church carpet. Oh, I'm going to wash their feet.
Yeah, I think because you in church, that's true life. Pastors get thrown at them situations which the members are complaining about, things which are really bother them. But really, if you look at it, some of it stuff is petty. A lot of stuff which pastors have to deal with is petty complaints. And what I liked about the guys dealing with that situation is that the answer wasn't just an answer; it was like the answer. It was like a Jesus moment where it's like he without sin cast the first stone.
Yeah.
And he found the answer from the Lord of what to do for the petty complaints, and it was good because he put action to it, and it's like it shut the mouths of those who were making the complaint, and I thought that was wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely. Clay, was there anything? Yeah.
Well, I agree with everything you guys said. I mean, yeah, it was a very loving gesture of the pastor, and again, was the perfect answer to that problem. But clearly, the other folk of the church they didn't really appreciate it. So that's when you saw the fruit. Was it actually because of they were Christian, that they read the Bible and respect it? Is that why they went to church, or was it just because of their father did it, or was it because it's about discipline instead of love?
Yeah.
But
And you mentioned that as well, when part of that kind of love being brought in was through the music as well, which I think softened people, which was your point earlier.
yeah.
So
Well, yeah, it did, but obviously the other people initially at the church did not appreciate the music.
Yeah.
They were very rigid about it. But no, yeah, with the music, it was clearly, you can see the resemblance nowadays because of we use music at the end of the preach where there's someone on the piano, on the guitar, who can put in some chords in to soften the mood, and while you're saying something, maybe deep sometimes, and sometimes it's not really that interesting, but the music makes it a little bit more spicy. But it clearly makes a difference, and that's from that hippie thing. So I mean, maybe we need to keep an eye on it, not to overdo it.
But that's the thing I do appreciate in Oakwell, they don't really do that. Is like they let the word speak for itself, because I do agree with Clay. We can use music to bring emotion in you. That actually is not the word that did that. It's not the Holy Spirit. It's the music.
You mean it's a good song?
Yeah, it's a good song. You can. I mean, and Hillsong and Bethel, they do that a lot. They use the music to bring people's emotion, cry, but it's just an emotion that goes away.
Yeah, it's another podcast though.
I do agree with your point.
Yeah, I guess it's theatrics, which later on in the movie they expand a bit more, and that's how they get the movement going further. But
Okay.
But yeah, it's the thing after this scene that I question is when you've got all the hippies one side, which not cool. You've got all the old conservative folks in the other side.
The original members of the church.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, original members of the church. And then the pastors explain, the door is open, so anyone comes, hippies, non-hippies, whatever, are welcome. And then he says, but that goes both ways. And that's the bit I wasn't sure of, because he was willing to let go. Obviously, those people, we can say, well, he's looking after the people who are not saved, but we don't know if those people are saved either, because they're not bearing good fruit. So I'm like, it seems a bit harsh on them, I felt.
And it's hard, isn't it? We were talking a little bit before, just kind of comparing notes, and I think the movies sometimes take a bit of dramatic license. They have to condense things down. So I completely agree. It could seem quite harsh, particularly it was only like one scene, wasn't it, where they said, right, guys, you're clearly not in for this, so you know where the door is, essentially. But yeah, I don't know in reality how long a period of time that was. It could have been really quick.
Yeah, it's true. Could have been longer.
But I agree though. Looking at doing a little bit of research for this, it seems like it was something that did take off really quickly. So maybe it did happen that way.
But at the same time, you got to have an answer for when you're challenged. You don't have to. You could just be bullied, because in the film it showed that the pastor was bullied. But also there was great concerns because a church gets to a place where it's just a repetitive number. The number's low. They want to introduce something new and nothing's happening. They've got a congregation and they're not doing anything, or they're not coming up with any answers. So the burden's on the pastor to find something new or an idea to make the place work.
Yeah.
And that's what the pressure was for him.
Yeah.
So when he starts moving on something and people are coming against that, then what else is he supposed to do? So in a way, you kind of like have to respond, as harsh as it may seem. You know, he pulled his finger out to do what he's supposed to, and now he's getting hassled for it.
Yeah.
You know, you can't have it both ways.
No, it's true, and it reminds me of a scripture in the Bible. You know, Jesus had we know he had the 12 disciples, but he had a lot more disciples. At one point, he talks about him sending out 70 out to preach, to preach the gospel. And then Jesus at what point says, unless you eat of my flesh and drink of my blood, you will not inherit the kingdom of God. And at that point, a lot of his disciples didn't like what he had to say, so they left. So I can also see with what Jason is saying that, you know, there's also a point maybe in church when people don't accept that love or that what God is doing, you know, to actually, maybe it's time for you to go somewhere where you can be very judgy.
Absolutely, and almost, so that links in really well to another part of the film, which is there's that other character, Greg Laurie, so the younger guy in the film, and he's on a bit of a downward spiral because he gets involved with the hippies, and then kind of starts taking drugs, and then there's a bad experience with someone overdoses, and he's near that, and he has a bit of a kind of dark night of the soul, and he meets Lonnie, doesn't he, the leader of the church. But the reason I'm mentioning that now is because you're right. If more people were being brought to the church and something new was happening, what is that producing? That was saving essentially Greg, because Greg was going down that path and had that interaction with Lonnie, and without that he could have continued down it.
I don't think it's just Lonnie. I think it's mainly the girl, because if you remember, the girl introduced him to the hippie, and he became a hippie and start taking drugs like a full druggy hippie. And then that girl saw her sister almost dying, and she saying, I had enough. But he continued the hippie because he liked the drugs. Then he nearly died, or he was concerned of dying, and yet he met Lonnie, but he kind of walked away. But then the next part, he sees his girlfriend, or the girl he likes, and she was waiting to hear Lonnie, which isn't, I agree, it's not a coincidence. God uses everything to his end. But I think the girl, for me, was one of the main person used to get him to church. Because if she wasn't there at that meeting, he would have not heard Lonnie, whatever his name was, and he would have walked away. But because she wanted to hear, she invited him to the church, and because he really liked her, he kind of, and also she had a point and he knew it, and he was concerned to die. But I thought the girl had more of an effect on him. Yeah,
but I'm in agreement. The girl was part of his interest.
Yeah.
But he was definitely dealing with some personal matters.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And it clearly showed in the film that those personal matters, the girl was no longer the main feature for him being there. To an extent where he was ready to knock her on the head, basically say, you know.
Yeah, because he clearly had some issues, like family issues, and that happened because the guy Lonnie left.
Yeah.
And he told him he was looking for family, so that hippie movement without the drug was definitely fitting for him. he had family, he had love. Then the lonely guy said, "No, I'm leaving because of whatever." And he took that lonely guy. I thought that was not nice. He said, "No, you're not family. There's no family," and that broke him.
I'm getting lost on the point we're making.
No, but
what I'm trying to say is that the point I'm making is because he lost family. You've got this girl that he really likes. He's thinking, well, I'm going to lose you, like I'm losing Lonnie and I'm losing this family. That's why he kind of lost it.
Right. Got saying.
I think, I agree, but I think the whole movement, and I think, Stuart, what you were trying to say was that without Lonnie, the hippie movement, Greg wouldn't have been saved. And the girl had something to do with it, but it was mainly a chain of events, a domino effect of him getting paranoid in the street, him finding Lonnie telling him some weird stuff which doesn't make sense, and then he comes back and his girlfriend from before is also listening to the same weird guy he saw on the street. So now this is not a coincidence. I think the girl had something to do with it, but she's not. He could have still went down that path if it wasn't for her.
I agree, and I think the point around that is really interesting, and maybe this could be something we talk through as well, is there any parallels to today as well? Have we seen that since the 60s or not? Because one of the things that stuck out for me was what Lonnie did was essentially make the church more accessible to hippies, and he was basically, because he was a hippie as well, he was bringing people in, and particularly younger people as well. And
but I'm in agreement. He was making it more accessible to hippies, but I'm thinking he was making it more accessible to the youth, because there was a clear distinction between the folk who was already in that church and they weren't connecting with youth. And the youth, where were they? They were turning into hippies. They were looking for salvation through the hippie movement. So this is the people, the youth are the people they want to draw, and it's almost like a church finding a way to draw people off the streets who are into hip hop, and that would be obviously multicultural amount of people coming into your church. It wouldn't necessarily just be about the hip hop movement then, would it, or the hippie movement? It would be classed as, my goodness, you found a way to connect to the youth.
Exactly, You're describing better, I suppose, the point I was trying to make,
it's very good.
You're completely right. And I think that.
Well, I would debate that, because I think
my son likes to do that. But let's do it on the podcast.
Let's go. Well, maybe we can say the same thing, but I think at the time, more of the youth were hippies, but there were some old folk that were hippies too. I mean, they were in trailers taking drugs, right? And the people organising the events.
They were like the leaders dropping acid from the planes.
Exactly. So, but the thing is that back in the 70s, there was a huge movement, because there was loads of wars going on, and there was a huge movement where loads of people were getting this spiritual awakening of this is not with Jesus related, but of psychedelic drugs, and that was the big movement with the hippies, right? So I think getting the hippies was also getting the youth, because most of the youth were going into that. But there was many other youths back in the 70s who were into hip hop, where the church wasn't founded on, or some youth was actually getting into the war back then. But so
I'm not sure how far back hip hop goes. 70s could be right.
But what I'm trying to say basically is that the main culture there was the hippie culture, which was a big epidemic back then. The news media was all about that, and negative press was about that, because back then it was like Vietnam, right?
You're right, with the psychedelic side, there was the invention of acid and the experimental drug, which went out into the streets and went out into the world and captivated them because of the hallucinations and it being like heaven-like. And that went so well with the hippie movement, or the movement, because and you can see by their way they wear the dress, it's almost like you may as well be wearing a robe. Do you know what I mean? The way they behaved. So obviously that connects to the youth.
And ultimately there weren't great things, and maybe we can go on to that in a second with Lonnie, But what he did do is for those people, those young people, he did make the church more accessible, and he brought people as well. And I think that net was a really good thing, really, because he brought, absolutely lots of.
Yeah, you can't knock that. That's what every church wants to grow.
Yeah.
And that's phenomenal growth. That was type of growth where you only God can be in it. And earlier on, they were saying the attraction, what she may have had, or this and the other, and orchestration, and Clay mentioned things wasn't coincidence. I mean, the bigger picture is none of it's coincidence. It's we can't forget God who orchestrates these things, that they fall into place, and a lot of what we saw were things falling into place.
No, awesome.
I agree. But also it's interesting to find out what we can learn from it. I mean, back then in the 70s, the world was screaming into this culture of awakening and being like one love and one peace. And what is the world? What are they screaming now? And how can we use that to get people towards God?
Can I jump in a little bit? That's the bit I wanted to mention a bit earlier, which literally what you just mentioned that is key. When this was its name, Lonnie. When Lonnie came to the church, the Jesus type hippie guy, he said to Chuck, the pastor, "I'm surprised you didn't see that. He didn't see what? He didn't see that these guys are looking for kind of like a heaven, and they found this through the hippie movement, through the drugs, and basically they're looking for your church, but they found it somewhere else. And I'm surprised you can't see that they're looking for family, they're looking for gathering, and it's like, well, it's a that was very deep.
You could see it, couldn't you? You could see his mind go,
clicked, didn't it?
Yeah, I could see that with that great guy. Could see this guy. I mean, his mum is not here for him. He's looking for family. He wants a dad. He wants family, and he found out with these drug things because that took him away. And then because of Lonnie and things, what they were reviving the church, he found that in the right place in the church. So I think that
because they emphasised. A lot of the Chuck emphasised, "This is your home. We're not going to turn you away."
Yeah.
And that love, or that that was you could actually feel that's where I want to be. And I suppose I can, as Christians, we obviously want to find Jesus. He's got to be there, but we want to have the brothers and sisters with us who are going to project Jesus' love to you, not abandoning you. Being church to you. These are things what you go to church for, to find people.
But that's where I would say with this hippie church movement, where I feel the hippie took a bit too much over the church, because when you look at their house, when this lonely guy said to the guys, "This is your home, this is your family," and when he left, that almost broke Greg. That means there was something, obviously didn't break him for whatever reason, but that's where I feel that this thing they were doing was a bit too hippie, not enough.
It was centered around
Bible.
Lonnie instead of Jesus. That's what. So when Lonnie goes, then it was at risk of falling apart a little bit, or that's how it felt in the film. I don't know if that's the reality of how it works, but
because when he was in that big tent, he was saying things like, "They're coming for me. I'm here."
He was asked a question. To be fair, he was asked a question, but his answer wasn't fruitful.
No, it wasn't. And to the extent that he was saying he was the pastor of the church, when I'm like, no, this guy is the pastor. So there was a lot of pride, a lot of self-exaltation, and he's like, Jesus wasn't the vine anymore, it was the centre.
Because there's a level of respect he should have had for the pastor. When being asked that question, he should have pointed them to the pastor. And not look for the glory for himself.
Yes.
And he pondered around the question, which is not good for it in the first place. So how do I best answer this? And then obviously he put himself on the pedestal again. So you could see there was things not quite okay there. And I suppose you could connect that with maybe the question is, did the Chuck give him too much reign within the church? Was the hip hop, was the hippie movement given too much freedom
Yeah.
Yeah.
to reign in that way. Was it too close? Was it too close to what Jesus was doing? You know, could you tell the difference between what was hippie and what was Jesus? I suppose that's the question at that time.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, it's clear that God used it. So
yeah, we're not we're not saying that God didn't use it. It clearly did, but for me, I like to look at fruit. And you know, Jesus said, "You recognize the tree by its fruit." The problem is that we see a movie, we haven't met the people, we haven't seen the fruit. We just seen a movement, and there was a lot of people, and it seemed the church was packed. But you know, you can go to a packed church, or you can go to a church, and you go there, and they just have connection because they're hippies together.
But then again, you say you recognize the tree by its fruit, but if we look at the fruit of the main characters, apart from at the end where, you know, Lonnie becomes a bit too arrogant, and Greg when he, you know, kind of messes up a little bit, we see some good fruit there. We see some, you know, family, community, what the disciples did in the book of Acts, where they share everything together, where they all pitched in to get Greg a car. All these things were good. I would say were good fruit, and comes from the Bible.
But there was also bad fruit in that house. When you see Lonnie's wife, she's kind of a bit flirty with Greg.
Yeah, but I get what you mean.
There's a bit of everything too.
Nothing really led from that. So yeah, it seems at first, but nothing really led to tell.
But it's questionable.
I agree though with you, Clay. I think that the product of it, I think if you were not a Christian watching the movie, you would see the change in Greg, the character, and you'd be like, wow, look at the change, and look at how nice those people were to him buying that car, and how more people would come together. But I think the thing for me that was missing as a Christian watching it was there was no credit given to God or Jesus for that transformation. It was all centered around Lonnie, and that. And maybe there's, I don't know, because I mean none of us really know because we weren't there, but there may be an element of truth to that, but maybe there's not, you know. So it's hard to.
We don't know. This is the thing.
I suppose you could say that Lonnie. I mean, you don't see that kind of type of guy today, because he was in effect very much like Jesus. Not just to the extent he was walking around barefoot. I'm not saying that's how Jesus walked, but his characteristics were so chilled, laid back. He kind of had a Jesus persona. So that's not a bad thing, because we're meant to reflect him, but maybe he was a bit too much of a clone of Jesus.
I was researching little bits of scripture, but one that, if it's okay if I read out, was 1 Timothy 3:6-10. And it says, because one of the things we didn't actually mention in the film is that, for those who have watched it, is Jonathan Rumi, the character playing, is actually quite a bit older than Lonnie. So Lonnie was actually 18 when he was in this movement. The real guy. So, but this is, I'll read this out. So it says, a church leader must not be a new believer because he might become proud and the devil will cause him to fall. So that was
overlooked.
Yeah, exactly. So pride entered, and then things started to crumble from there. So
that's a very good one.
That's important for churches, but unfortunately, when it comes to leadership, that's an area where I think the church doesn't always follow what the word says. For not favouritism, possibly for favouritism sometimes, but it might be also to show compassion and Jesus' love. And I think, well, you know, God's not going to contradict his word either, is he? So sticking to the word is priority, but it doesn't always happen, unfortunately.
And another thing I wanted to say is because when there was a revival back in England, I can't remember, it was with John Wesley, I can't remember.
The Welsh one?
Yes.
Yeah.
What did with this revival is that he changed the whole community, to the extent that I think some pub closed, there was less drinking, there was actually a knock-on effect on the outside. But with this, that's why I can't call it revival. You just see people coming to church and people getting baptized, because you can't see an area change where there's less crime, there's less. like in that Welsh revival, that's truly what happened.
Yeah, and I suppose that's where maybe the film element comes in, because we don't see the whole picture, do we? So we don't know.
But what we do know, because I read a book which is free on the Living Water website called God Has a Wonderful Plan for My Life. And I think that book was read back maybe on that movement, or back on the fact that sometimes you read things about, so many people got baptized, or so many thousand people were saved, or whatever. But then when they did a survey around Christian back in 2003, they said 45% of professing Christian believe that gambling was morally acceptable. 49% believe that living with someone with the opposite sex without being married was morally okay. And 33% of Christian born again, who profess to be born again, so it was okay to kill a baby while it's still in the womb. So my point is, we can see all these big things. People say, I went to this crusade, 10,000 people were saved. But then if you look in the world we're living now, or during the same times, there's something that I think that doesn't match. I'm not saying they're not saved. I'm just saying, all comes, we can say so many people profess to have become Christian or born again. But then you've got those statistics.
Yeah.
I'm just questioning it.
You got any thoughts, Clay?
I'll
pass that one to you.
Well, I think that I would then again bounce the question back to you, because we see a huge movement that's being made through the hippie culture, where thousands and millions of people are getting saved at a rate that we've never seen or rarely see, right? How do you control that? How do you control that so that it doesn't degenerate? Because I feel like a movement, because this is what it was a movement, will end up degenerating, where pockets of it, when it spreads out, it's just gonna, when you go, when you play the game, when you just whisper something in someone's ear and it just goes around the circle and it comes back differently. I feel like that's just going to end up happening, and it's going to spread.
And
right?
I think I agree, but if we think around how Christianity spread at the very beginning, that was a movement from Israel, essentially. But what keeps it grounded? So it's the word, and back then as well, obviously things were kind of verbally remembered as well, so very carefully passed on. So I don't know what the point I'm trying to make, but it has to be grounded in something real, if that makes sense. It has to be rooted in... Sorry, go on.
No, sorry. And that thing would be the Bible.
Sorry for the screaming in the background, that wasn't how.
Yeah.
And do continue.
Yeah, and that thing would be, or should be, the Bible, because that's what is the root. Right, that's God's word. But I'm gonna throw back a difficult question at my mother, since she loves difficult questions. Would be, Paul helped set up the Roman Church, which then became the Roman Catholic Church, right? And
you can't say that's the same
church.
Up
The church.
Wait a minute. Because I'm daddy, I'm gonna be referee. Okay, let me ask the question first, and then we'll give you the mic back.
Okay.
Paul, Apostle Paul, set up the churches in Rome, and all these, Colossians and all that, right? And the Roman Church started strong, and then went away, went a bit pear-shaped a bit. That's why Paul had to write the letter to Rome. But then they went pear-shaped again because of it did become secular through the Roman Catholic Church. I mean, the Romans took Christianity and twisted it.
Let's bring to the
right?
question.
The question is, even Paul founded churches and it went bad.
Yeah.
What's the question?
So how do you...
Yeah, how do I do? Well, the thing is, you can't say that's the same church, because in 1 John or 2 John, he talks about it, when he talks about they were from us.
Oh, look at me, you asked the question.
They were from us, but they came out of us.
Yeah.
If they were with us, they would have remained with us. So with your things, because I'm looking at the Bible, I would say, well, some people who from the church that Paul set up, they came out of the church to set up their own thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so they were not with them in the first place, as Paul said. But I agree with you, because I was thinking the Reformation, when Martin Luther broke the Catholic Church And he set up the 99 thing to say to the Catholic, you get it wrong, we're saved by grace, but it was more to it than that. Then there was that, what they call I was going to say the resistance.
What, the resistance?
Reformation.
It was a Reformation, and they were called the Protestant.
Yeah.
The Protestant church. And in France, the Protestant church, because obviously in France it was mainly Catholic, they were what you call born-again Christian. They were actually... But when you look at the Protestant church today, they're
not as strong as...
they're not...
Or founded in the Bible as they used to be.
Yeah.
Go on, if you finish, I can put a cap to this.
Yeah, so I do agree with you, but we can't assume that maybe something somewhere...
Okay, I'm going to... Because of the discussion's really based around people getting saved, and a majority of people getting saved, are they going to be that many, the same amount in 10, 15 years' time? Are they going to remain that same amount? And it's clearly the answer is no. Because we've seen even with Jesus, when he had his 70, when he sent out his 77, he had quite a few followers amongst his 12. And he said something which they all started to scatter. Well, they all started, I can't accept that, it's too hard. And that was when he said, you can't have part of me unless you eat off my flesh and drink from my blood.
Yeah.
And they said, look, we want to follow you, but this is too hard of teaching. We can't eat your flesh, we can't drink your blood. And he literally meant, eat it, drink it, expressing that it's through the bread, breaking of bread and wine, but not this. Anyway, but they couldn't swallow that, so they departed. And also in the Bible, it clearly says that the gate to destruction is very wide, and for salvation it's very it's narrow. Thank you, dude. So, and there's another discussion I was having with a friend recently. There's so many sperm to get to one egg. God made it that way, and I'm not going off topic, but it's heaven and what God has for us. It's been offered and given to everyone. We all, the million of sperms get to race for that one egg, and if you notice, some of them die on the way. They don't even get as far, but obviously one makes it. And I see when you get Christian, you get born again. Obviously your heart's changed. You now got to walk it out with the Lord and make it.
Yeah.
But there are going to be some who don't, and I don't feel that the Lord is as concerned about those who don't make it as much as we're talking about at the moment, because He is concerned. He wants everyone to make it, but He also acknowledges that thousands aren't going to make it.
It's interesting what you're saying, and I love it, because one is Paul said, walk out your salvation with fear and trembling, so it's a daily thing. And also in John 15, I had it there, it does say, I am the true vine, and my Father is the gardener. Cuts off every branch is in me that bear no fruit, while every branch that does bear fruit prunes, so that it will be even more fruitful. And he also says... So
that's referring to people when he's cutting off branches.
Yeah, and he said, you already be clean because of the word that I have spoken to you. Remain in me as also remain in you. So it is, we have to remain. Yeah, like you said.
Read that last bit again. Remain in me.
Remain in me as I also remain in you.
Understood.
So
yes.
We have to remain, like you said.
That's right. And
in Him.
It's not a straightforward thing. It's a walking out your faith. There's temptations, and people do fall away. They don't stay with the Lord, or they get discouraged, and all sorts of reasons. But you're not to do that because of the gift what God's given us. So what we're talking about is how I think it's good, but we're talking about how precious the word is. And once you've got it, you sell everything and you keep it. Right?
Yeah, and I think maybe a way to kind of wrap this part up is, and it'll be interesting for your thoughts, but I think that Clay's point is really good, that it's fantastic as a movement, but it's so easy for that then to get sidetracked. And we don't know, because the film doesn't cover that. We just see the massive amount of people that start joining this church, getting baptised, giving their lives, and then it kind of ends at that point, really. Yeah. We don't see beyond there. But for me, and listening to the conversation now, it shows you how important leadership is in that situation, particularly when you've got a lot of new Christians coming to faith and getting baptised and professing faith. Is it rooted in the Bible and the Word? and the leadership as well was really interesting. The dynamic between Lonnie, who was great evangelizing, great at bringing people in, but it was the wisdom and experience of Chuck, the pastor, who actually kept it on track as well, and could identify the pride in Lonnie as well. I think that was really, what is it rooted in, and the importance of leadership. And that even the film ending as well with Greg showed the leadership element, and that being passed forward as well. So hopefully that kind of wraps that up.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think so too.
So let's have a final round then. Any final thoughts on the film? I think we've identified really positive things from the film, some things that maybe actually really trigger some discussion between us. Any final words, Clay? Start with you.
No, I think we covered pretty much everything, apart from something you said earlier, which I don't think you mentioned throughout this podcast, was that Lonnie was 18.
Yes.
And that makes a big difference when you view the film and you rethink it through your head, that he was really young, so it makes more sense that he fell into, that arrogance. Right?
Yeah.
And that Chuck was really like more of a father, authoritative figure than a equal.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely,
Absolutely.
Really good point.
Good.
Yeah, wonderful film that I think we can learn a lot from, to love more, to be more compassionate. For me, it's washing the feet of everyone.
Yeah.
That speaks volume of the pastor.
Yeah.
That's fruit.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I haven't got anything else to add. I think, other than I'm surprised how deep in discussion I got into this.
That's right.
I got really carried away.
Who said I'm going to be silent on that
Oh, mate, I've got to edit this, Give me work now.
Going behind the scenes, lifting the curtain up.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I think it's a great film. I think the accessibility for someone who's not a Christian, seeing the change, and it was really good. And I think it was a well-produced film as well. And
it's definitely well-produced.
Yeah, and it was quite uplifting in many parts as well. It made you want to evangelise. It made you, particularly in the middle of the film, when they're giving out the leaflets, I was like, oh, this is really good. So I left buzzing, actually. So but thank you very much, guys, for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this discussion. We went everywhere with this film, so it'd be great to hear what you think as well. So if you do want to leave comments or send us a message, it'll be really interesting to see what you think. Please check out the Hawkwell Baptist Church website and also FaithFood.Tv to find out more about this podcast and our church.
And I'll leave a link to the film in the description bar, at least to the trailer.
Yeah, lovely,
And you can get it free. You can watch it free on Netflix. I know it's in the Netflix. If you've got Netflix, you can watch it free there.
Yeah, awesome. And we'll see you in the next episode.
Bye.
Bye. That's why